Is this Pete the Prophet we're talking to?
The Prophet is in the house.
Got to give you your proper musical introduction, Pete.
You know that's on my answering machine now.
I know.
We have to give Pete a lot of accolades right at the very top. He said that California Chrome was not going to win the race, that there were a couple of other horses in there that had an excellent chance to win. I don't know that he picked the winner. I don't think that was the horse he picked. But
I did not.
Give us a little bit of your background now that the race is over.
What you picked? That's the one I went with, and I didn't win, Pete.
Well, Doug, the minute you played it, I was automatically in a bad spot. So I'm not going to win if you're betting my horses. But one thing I'm very good at is eliminating horses that I don't feel has a very good chance of winning. That's easier than, of course, picking the winner. That you then come and you figure out the two or three that logically had a shot to win it. There were so many reasons why I didn't think California Chrome could win it. And with all that being said, to lose by 2 lengths, I was completely shocked, considering what happened with the hoof, what I considered a very bad ride. I thought it was a fairly impressive race, considering the winner just was a monster, considering 3 wide on both turns, and to surge at the end of that race to win that was just a huge accomplishment.
Looks like you got a second wind coming down the stretch. As everybody knows, it's a furlong further when you go the mile and a half. That's the only track in America that's a mile and a half track. And looks like you got a little bit of a second wind when you made that last surge to win it. And of course, even that, it was a 3-horse photo. I mean, it was pretty darn close.
It was. From starting from the very beginning of the race. Well, first of all, I will tell you this, that being a body language expert, the one thing that I noticed right away, and I remember texting one of my partners before the race started, was California Chrome looked incredibly quiet, way too quiet. I've seen him in both of the races beforehand, especially the Derby, where there was a controlled fury is what you're looking for, not a studdish look, just a controlled sort of fury. Hard to describe, something you just know when you see it. And this race, you see him in the paddock, and it's not a bad thing, but it is something to be noteworthy of when you know a horse's body language and what they do before the race. And when he's walking in the paddock completely calm, jockey gets on him, completely calm. They blow the horn, he comes onto the track, not a dance in his step, nothing. Right away, there was just something not quite right. And again, that being said, still lost by 2 lengths. And what I thought was not a very good ride. We talked about it, and the one thing I really was not worried about with this jockey was a panic move. Now, he didn't panic. A lot of don't forget the last 3 or 4 last 3 or 4 Triple Crown winners all went wire to wire. This horse had a chance to go to the lead right off the bat. Decided not to take it, which was one thing. I don't really mind that, because I do think that if he would have gone to the lead, horses would have made a lot of runs at him early. It would take a lot of nerve of a jockey to go to the front in a race like that under the kind of criticism you'd end up getting if the horse was lost. So I don't mind what he did sitting off the pace. What I did mind was him giving up that rail position. If you know your horse, you know he doesn't have quite the same energy that he had. He had a perfect spot on the inside. He ends up drifting out and going 4 wide. All you need to do is look at the one horse in that race who ends up running third. They're dead even on the turn, and at the wire, that horse is 1 length ahead of California Chrome, and you have to figure that length, you lose a length on the turn for every path you're out. So midway on the turn, he goes out 3 more paths. That's a couple of lengths. Not saying he would have won. It would have been a phenomenal photo finish, and I thought it was a very bad ride.
And I think Tom Hammond might have mentioned that we were just talking about, Pete, when they did the parade on the track, that how calm Chrome was compared to the previous 2 races, maybe the previous 4 or 5 that he had won in a row coming into this race. So obviously you were there, so you didn't hear him talking about it, but you picked up on it, and it's a lot of people.
Yeah,
he looked a lot different.
He did look a lot different, and again, it's only if you follow them. Some horses have their tendencies. Some are very quiet. Some, remember a horse named Great Communicator way back. He was a very sore horse, and that he needed a lot of warm up. So he'd go onto the track, and his jockey would just constantly trotting him hard, moving him a lot. If you see that in a normal horse, you'd never bet him, but some horses have a tendency. This one showed me in the two races that I saw, both obviously on the TV, but both of them showed the kind of look that you want. Now, the winner of the race did something near the gate that I absolutely love. You never get to see it because you don't really have the gate look in a lot of times. You don't get to see that even with binoculars. It's hard to see. Where if you ever noticed that when the horse is chewing the bit, but he was chewing it passionately. I mean, madly. I saw that look and I said, "Oh my God, this horse is going to run a gigantic race." But I never thought he can get the mile and a half. So I was wrong about that. And again, talking about the California Chrome, in the stretch, it looks like he's got a shot. Did the hoof hurt him? Obviously he got a cut after the race. Did that sting him? There are so many things. And, all these Triple Crown winners that have lost in the past, it's not like they've been off the board finishing last. They've been second. Smarty Jones lost by a length and change. Real Quiet by a nose. So they run their race, but it's just enough. The grind's just enough. Body language shows you what it is. Funny side, when he comes onto the racetrack, is over the top sharp. Sometimes it's such a fine line with these horses. Sometimes you need an extra workout at him to get him quieter, to get him a little off his edge. Sometimes you need a little bit more workout. Secretariat famously worked 33 seconds for a 3-furlong workout before the Belmont Stakes. Completely unheard of. You'd never see that nowadays. Every horse is different. This one was very clear that there was something not quite right about him.
Well, Doug and I really haven't had a chance to chat about it since I've been on the road, but to me, the biggest disappointment, other than the race itself, and 11 horses, and I thought it was quite a good race, but the owners after the race, especially the owner that's been the most vocal. I
Colburn.
think, I was so much in his corner during the first two races, his trainer and the two owners. But boy, oh boy, did they destroy my liking for what transpired, because if you lose, you lose. Throwing all these accusations to people just doesn't make very much sense to me.
That was a very, I'm always aware of people that are exceptionally friendly and exceptionally happy, and I'm weary of them sometimes, because you only tell the mettle of anybody by when something goes wrong. And this person before the races, he's out in his grandstand seat there, and he's saluting the fans, and they're cheering him, and he's all happy and all of that.
Right.
And then the race is over, and he has the nerve to say that stuff. And on top of, honestly, as stupid of a comment that you could ever say, followed up by, I would have bet anything that he is going to be lambasted. The next day, he comes out with the apology, and we're all fine. And then the next day comes, and he does foot in his mouth number 2. Incredible, talking about him playing basketball against a kid in a wheelchair. I don't even understand. And then repeated it. He did it on Good Morning America, then repeated it on another show. Someone just wasn't talking to this guy. The poor wife trying to get him to calm down. Just classless. And on top of all that, what I will say is his apology today, though, was exceptionally heartfelt. It's the kind of thing I expected after day one. You never see that. You could imagine the owner of Secretariat, Penny Tweedy, after losing some of the races that Secretariat lost, doing something like that. Have you ever heard of somebody saying you have to limit the horses in a race? The reason why Secretariat affirmed all those horses only ran against 4 or 5 horses in the race was because no one wanted to run against them, because they were impossible to beat. So
right.
That drew the field down to only a few. 10 other horses ran against this horse. This horse he was a good horse. He's a good in an average lot. To think that, that to me showed you all you needed to know about the horses that lined up against him. And then to say those things, the classiest person was the winner of the race, who, when asked about the comment, said, I don't have any comment for that. Right. Which was the right way to handle it. Very, very, very disappointing, and all the goodwill that he put in got wiped right out the window right there. And I tell you, I do like. I forgot who the person that was interviewing him was. I've always loved him. He always asked good questions, and he kind of followed up with it. He gave him a chance to get out of it, and he decided to put his foot in his mouth. So very disappointing.
Was it Bob Newmeyer?
Doug, you really never commented on it yet, Doug. What do you think?
I think that was Bob Newmeyer, the guy that had to interview Coburn at the end.
You're 100% right, Bob Newmeyer, yes.
Well, you and I were talking on Saturday. The kiss of death is when this guy Coburn said, I guarantee a Triple Crown. So I knew right away I wasn't going to bet on Chrome. But
yes.
But this guy, that apology he did today, I didn't see it. I read about it, fine. I mean, somebody told him he better apologize, but I think it was... somebody told him to do it. I think he would have kept saying these things if one of his other owners didn't say, "Hey, we're losing money on the value of this horse if you keep doing this." So I don't buy the apology either.
What was surprising?
One question for you?
Yes.
All they said, that the part that I heard, not talking to Doug about it after the race. I only saw the race itself. I didn't see any of the pregame show or anything, but. They said record crowd. I knew 125,000 was supposedly the record of Belmont. What did they have?
They had 102. 120 with Smarty Jones. Yeah, they had 102 for this race. So they were expecting.
Wasn't a record then?
No, it was the third most. They expected. Okay. They're actually talking of 130, and they were talking about limiting the admission into Belmont, which they didn't need to do in any way. And I don't know if because you're not up here, I don't know if you've seen all the blogs, the comments about how incredibly poorly run it was, how there were...
Today on Francesa's show, a lot of people were calling in saying how poor job they did this year.
Ran out of water, ran out of food, bathrooms didn't work. Again, the second time at Smarty Jones, 120,000 people, they had a plumbing issue. The bathroom line for women over a half an hour. Actually, fist fights before. What ended up happening is and what they do is they hire teenagers and they train them to, let's say, take tickets, and they train them for a couple of hours for one day, and the kids don't know what to do, and they're not backed up by anybody. So people, even though you had seats, people would go down. If they saw seats empty, they'd sit down. The people then would go in with their seats. They try to get seats, and they couldn't get seats. They tried to get security. There wasn't enough security. It was an absolute, and then the railroad was just an unbelievable mess.
That was a mess. Yeah, the LIRR wasn't working into Belmont. Yeah.
Well, the thing that amazes me is, Doug, I know you back in the heyday when Belmont was Belmont, they have 8 platforms at Belmont. They can bring in trains all over the place. Unfortunately, because racing is dead, there's only one platform that you can use, and it's an 8-car platform. The year of Smarty Jones, they had 20,000 people that came in by train. This year they had 35,000 people. Out of anything, I will say that's the one thing you cannot account for. I mean, you might account for the same you had in the same year you had 120,000 people, but to have almost double completely threw them off. And there still should have been contingent plans. The things going on out in the parking lot, just the event. There was one thing that happened under the Long Island Railroad trestle there, where there was almost a stampede because a water main broke and some parts of the ceiling had started to fall off. The fire marshal got people off of it. There was actually like a stampede backwards. It's just poorly run. And Doug, that I've always been very critical of the NYRA, and they honestly couldn't run a Ferris wheel without ruining it. And they just did such a terrible job. But yet they were the first ones to come out a few minutes after the Belmont that they wrecked a record handle and all this stuff. But people were just so disappointed about what they did. It was a very, very poor job.
Well, I'll tell you, 2 major events, Doug, in New York City, the Super Bowl. And even though it's played in New Jersey, but I still count it as New York. And then, of course, the Belmont, which everybody kept thinking was going to set the record, which, as Pete said, did not. And yet both of them were run very, very poorly.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I know that if you don't know exactly what you're doing, maybe you should go to someone that does and maybe get some help. And Churchill Downs, runs 50% more, 150,000 people. And yes, they have an infield, but I've been there a couple of times, and what they do inside that plant, it is strict, it is clean, it's just a magnificent job. And I know they only get 100,000 once a year, but you have to have just some contingent plans. And what they have changed, what they've done now, is they cater to the bigger tables now. They shut off. There was a view right before the start of the Belmont Stakes. I saw a view from the blimp, and they showed the grandstand and clubhouse. The grandstand was a sea of people on the apron. The clubhouse had nobody on the apron. The reason for that was because they do corporate events now. So no longer are regular people able to go there, and that holds thousands of people. So eventually, you're pushed into different areas. All the areas you used to be able to go to, a lot of them are now corporate. So more and more people just get jammed into less and less space. And listen, anyone who came to the Belmont for the first time is never going back to the Belmont Stakes again. If you had a car, if you were taking a train, you're just not doing it. I mean, they don't know the side ways out. They don't know certain ways where you should be parking, but they're never going back again. And, again, NYRA, a great opportunity, and they blew it.
Now they don't have slot machines at Belmont, right? They have only Aqueduct. Yeah,
only at Aqueduct. Yeah.
Right. So that didn't affect it.
But you could also say the same thing about the Preakness, because they use the infield as well.
Yeah, they do. Back in the day, like at Saratoga, they used to use the infield.
Right.
And what they did there is, and the reason why they stopped it actually is because you would have to cross the dirt course. Both Pimlico and Churchill have tunnels underneath. Belmont doesn't have that, and that infield, you could put 800,000 people in that infield. I mean, that's either the fact that you could put the Yankee and Shea stadiums in the middle of that place shows you how expansive that is. And so what they do in Saratoga, you'd walk across the dirt course, and they'd have planks on the turf that you'd walk across and then get in. So they wouldn't run turf races that day because they didn't want to hurt, because there was planks on the turf. It would push the turf down. They didn't want to hurt a horse getting hurt. And they'd come by and they would scrape the track on the dirt, and they'd run races. It's a great thing. Maybe that's something they should consider doing. I don't know if there's any way. Maybe you don't run certain, but they should really utilize that infield and use just something part of it. The fact that they have a new talking head now, who all he talks about is customer service, and they have Bobby Flay on the board, and Bobby Flay is going to bring normalcy and good prices and a regular experience for and then they go through this. They completely blew it.
Well, the NYRA went broke a few years ago, didn't it, Pete? So I mean, that tells you something right there. How does a track go broke?
Well, especially one that's not non-for-profit. I mean, that's a difficult thing to do, and that's the whole problem with racing in New York, is that it is not run for profit. I mean, if you had a company like Disney came in, someone from the brilliant minds of Google came in, they would change they would make it a fun day at the races where you would have, the fact that you have Doug, I was covering it for us, so I'm walking around there and I'm seeing the beer. Now, they don't allow, on that day only, they do not allow you to bring your own alcohol in. Okay, right. Fine. And that's because they had a bad problem one year about 6-7 years ago. Fine. Pimlico solved that problem by you buy a cup for $20 and you can fill it up as often as you want. So that's fine. They didn't do that. What they did have, they had a beer vendor in the back, 2 people, 2 teenagers, completely overrun. 2 people. There's 40,000 people in the backyard. 2 people on different parts of the it's incomprehensible. If they're trying to make money, you're paying somebody $7-8 an hour to sit behind a thing. Can you have 20 of them back there because you're charging $10 a beer? Is that possible? I'm pretty good at math. I'm pretty sure you're going to make a hefty profit. And what happens is then this is like the old retail days when you look at something and you don't get it because it's not easy to get. Same thing with betting. We didn't even talk about the betting lines. They were unbelievable. Unbelievably bad.
People shut out?
People were shut out all day long.
Every race?
Except, as it always happens every year, no one shut out in the Belmont Stakes. And the reason for that is because everyone makes their bets before the Belmont for the Belmont Stakes.
Right.
So there's nobody online. So the betting lines are terrible. No one knows that if you, and anyone listening, if they're going to the Belmont next year, you go to the third floor because no one goes upstairs. So you want to make a bet, you want to go to the bathroom, you want to use a phone, the third floor. So that's my tip going into next year for the 8,000 people that'll show up.
Remember, nothing else from listening to this show. Go to the third floor if you go to Belmont next year.
That's it. Third floor. You can get it all. There was beer. You can get frankfurters. All the fine things. Now, so that's what I bring to it. The prophet just doesn't bring information about horses. He brings information about where to sit and where to hang out. That's what the prophet does. Thank you very much.
Well, I think Pete, we're gonna have to get our good friend the G-Man too, Doug, to show them how to put those tunnels underneath so that the Indianapolis 500, all those people walk underneath the track right out on the infield. We ought to bring him in here and get the architectural scheme for Indianapolis Speedway.
He'll call him later. Before we run out of time, Pete, with you, I know the ratings were huge for this. I saw the ratings today, over 20 million for the race, almost double, I think, the last time there was a Triple Crown shot. So that's impressive for horse racing.
Yeah, it was impressive. They really built it up well. The NBC had it on other channels during the rest of the day. I mean, it's amazing when you think about all the horse coverage they had. It's amazing the amount of stories they can do and how they can cover time. I mean, really unbelievable how much time they can. All the stories they're running, all the different things. They did a great job. It was very well done in that respect. And just going back very quickly for a second before we go about the owner who said his comments. It's actually amazing to me the amount of people that don't know anything about horse racing that said he had a good point. And
I heard a lot of
that's
that
what
today,
was that was the most shocking thing to me. So many people said, "Oh, that makes sense." And obviously, if anyone in the game, it makes no sense. First of all, these are three separate races. It wasn't it wasn't called the Triple Crown. They didn't make these three races for that. It evolved into the Triple Crown. There's three separate entities, three separate tracks, three separate purses. And could you imagine a race of 20 horses in the Derby, and then the only ones that could run in the Preakness 2 weeks later? You know how many horses would run in that? 2. No one would run in that race.
It'd be a match.
It would be a match race.
The other thing is, I mean, you can't change the Triple Crown. It's covered over so many weeks. It's the way it's always been. If you change it, put another week on the backside for Belmont, it's not the Triple Crown anymore.
No.
Absolutely, it's not the Triple Crown. And I think one of the greatest things said, because now they're talking about maybe moving it back to where July 4th would be the Belmont, Memorial Day would be the Preakness. But remember this, and no one is thinking about this. It would, in my opinion, it would make it absolutely harder to have a Triple Crown winner if you're giving a month in between races, because now all these horses are coming back fresh. It's a whole different issue. It puts a whole another set of problems. The bottom line is we had those Triple Crowns. They were great horses. These are just not great horses. It takes a champion to do a great horse to do this. You can't change it. You can't move distances. That's what's called the test of champions. They have to keep it just as it is. We'll see one eventually. Eventually, it'll happen.
I agree 100%. I just don't think if you're going to change it and spread the time out, then you're not going to call it the Triple Crown. But the other thing, going back quickly, because I know we're out of time, but the purses. One of the reasons I think that the coverage was so good and the ratings were so good because they were all good races. I mean, they weren't just $7,500 claimers.
Right. Well, especially, I mean, the Belmont threw it all out there. I mean, to have the Met Mile, which stands alone on Memorial Day normally, to have that race, have Palace Malice win that race in a great race, the card, the turf races, the purses they gave out, the racing was spectacular on that. They did a fantastic job with that. So, I mean, big fields. In the betting sense, it was great if you can get a bet in. So.
Well, Pete, I'm glad you could take the press pass and use it. I couldn't get up there, so you were better off doing it anyway. You enjoyed it more than I would have.
I definitely enjoyed it. We'll talk sometime about that press box up there. That's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. Hey, wow! Let me tell you something. You know what? I'm not going to go any. I'm